Smartphone video is here to stay. Over the last decade, photography and videography has been taken over by one camera. And that camera is one that can fit inside your pocket, the iPhone, or whatever you other people use. The demand for content created on the iPhone has become so great over the last few years that even though I have cameras like the FX3 or Sony a7 IV, I have made over 6 figures in the last 2 to 3 years from brands specifically requesting that I create content for them on this device. So here are 5 smartphone video shots that I use all the time on my different commercial productions that will instantly help you impress brands and elevate your online video. And while you can do all these shots handheld or using things like action mode or whatever the Android equivalent is, I will be demonstrating these using the new smartphone gimbal from ZHIYUN, the Smooth 5S AI. Now, in full transparency, ZHIYUN did send me this gimbal to try out. They do not get a say over what I say in this video, but I do get to keep the gimbal, which I guess is an incentive. But honestly, I do so much video work on my smartphone that these types of tools are great for me. I use them all the time, and I'm gonna try to be as helpful as possible in this review without being biased or whatever, because honestly, I just really like this thing. All right, so the first shot we have here is called a parallax shot. And the basic idea behind a parallax shot is that as you move across a scene, the objects closer to you feel like they're moving faster, and the objects farther away feel like they're moving slower. I like using the shot a lot in my productions, and I think that's because it's a way to capture motion in a really interesting way, and it's also a way to capture a space in a really interesting way while not losing track of the subject. Now, when you're doing a parallax shot, what you're gonna wanna start off doing is by locking onto your subject, whatever that is. And you're gonna make that subject typically a farther away subject. On iPhone, you can just kind of tap on whatever the object is for long enough and it'll say AF lock. And then once you do that, you lock onto that and you just move from left to right or right to left. And what's so great about the shot is it gives a great sense of motion as the objects that are closer to you appear to be moving by really, really quickly while you're not losing focus of that subject that's further away. I love doing this type of shot when I'm capturing crowds, when I'm capturing, again, some kind of movement in the background. I like to have that foreground movement element. Really, really great. It'll make your videos look absolutely incredible, and I can't recommend it enough. The next shot we have here is called a push or a pull, and it's really simple. It just involves moving your camera towards or away from your subject. So you move forward or backwards. Now, this shot's great to kind of add to intrigue or interest in the subject as you're moving closer, or as you're pulling back, it allows for kind of a widening of the space. Maybe you're revealing the scene, the environment. The next shot is a reveal shot. Now, you can do this by moving the camera up or down or left to right, right to left, whatever that looks like. And a reveal shot is where you reveal the subject. It's hidden, and as you rise up or move over, you are revealed to what the subject is, what the interest point of the shot is. So similar to what we talked about with the parallax shot, you're going to want to lock focus on the subject, which again on iPhone, AF lock by tapping down, or there are specific apps where you can actually set your focus, like the ones made for the 5S AI. You could take it off autofocus and make it manual. And once you do that, you just do that reveal. So you'll either start down where you can't see it, and as you rise up, you'll see this subject. Start from left to right, right to left. And I use this all the time because it's this nice big reveal moment. It's a grand entrance. You have no idea what you're gonna see, and then it pops out and you're like, okay, that's the subject of this scene. The next shot to talk about is a follow shot. Now, a follow shot can kind of happen at any level. It can be following where you're up and filming by where their head is. It can be a full body follow. It can be down where their feet are. In this example right here, I'm actually following 2 people attending the Calgary Stampede. And as they're walking with their kind of fancy cowboy boots, I'm getting this boot shot. And it's really interesting because it's more of a boot experience. It's POV from a boot level. It's bringing you along on their journey with them. And I think that's a really interesting shot to add because it brings a human element to the filming process. It's following their experience. It's where they're headed. And the final one is a pan shot. So panning is just you're going from kind of left to right, right to left, and you're staying stationary. You're staying in the same spot. Now, I do think you have to be careful with a pan because this is a type of filming technique that I see a lot of people who are kind of amateurs at filming on their iPhone do all the time. It becomes the most boring video because if your whole video is just you going like this, you're all in the same spot. It's incredibly boring. And the real goal is to use these different techniques that we just talked about, these filming techniques, these 5 shots, and intersperse them throughout your video. Doing any one shot too much is going to become boring. And so I love spacing them out and doing a little bit of, say, reveal, or you're doing a little bit of following, or you're doing a pan in there. The end video is a lot more visually dynamic than if you're just standing in one spot, like a lot of iPhone users do, and just doing this, or just still shots where you just got a stagnant still shot. It gets really boring really quick, and mixing it up is gonna go a long way, especially for client productions or just social media engagement. Now, a few final tips that I will say is try to kind of do hybrids of these filming techniques. Let's say you're doing like a parallax shot, you're moving from left to right. Add in kind of a rotation in there. So instead of just moving left to right, still stay focused on the subject, but kind of rotate in like a half circle around it. And you get a different perspective with that. You get movement on multiple planes with that, and it becomes a lot more visually interesting. Mixing these shots up and practicing so that you can do hybrids of these different shots, just add these extra layers of interest that are gonna really hook your users and give you something that's gonna make you stand out to other competitors if you're trying to make money off using an iPhone. Another great tip is to go into your editing software and use keyframes to add, say, like zooms to the shot. So something I'll do a lot is while I'm doing a parallax shot, I'll actually keyframe from my normal zoom into, say, like a 1.5, and that takes this shot and turns it into looking like this shot. Okay, now that we talked about some really cool shots you can do, let's take a quick minute to talk about the new 5S AI and whether it's worth getting, because there are a lot of other smartphone gimbals on the market. So to start off with, this is the DJI OM 5 or OM 6. Honestly, I don't remember, but it's pretty evident right off the bat that this thing is a little bit heftier, a little larger than the DJI. I will say that the DJI does have an easier setup. It's honestly, you take this off, you clip it on your iPhone, clip it back on, you're good to go. It feels very different from my experience with professional camera gimbals. This definitely feels like something for a tiny smartphone, and in general, it did an okay job. Although with this size, I will say I've had issues with it in the past where the balance will be off or it won't be leveled. And I find that especially when you're using a larger phone like my iPhone 15 Pro Max, this isn't always as reliable. But does it make a big enough difference that you're gonna wanna invest in something like this, which is a little bit bigger, maybe a little more challenging to fit in the bag, maybe takes a little bit more time to set up? That's the real question. So what I would say is the biggest difference between this and like the OM series or other smartphone gimbals is that, like a professional gimbal, which I'm used to using for my professional cameras, you do have a little bit more control of the balance of this. You have these knobs, you can slide it, adjust it, so that it kind of balances out with your smartphone, and you're gonna wear your motors out slower when you do that than when you have something that's just kind of a one-size-fit-all option. And for me, that is really handy because that allows you to maybe attach extra things, like say I wanted a variable ND filter because I'm shooting an Apple log, or just different things like that that I wouldn't really be able to throw on my old OM series DJI smartphone gimbal because, again, the balance would just be really off. Whereas with this, I can make adjustments to the whole thing, kind of moving these different parts back and forth to get that balance that's a little bit more precise and is just gonna be better for this device overall. Another thing that I really like about this is that there is a light built straight into this device. It's not an add-on that you have to put on, it's literally built into the arm, which can be handy because at low lights, iPhone video gets really kind of noisy. And I often find the quality when it gets to darker conditions just really poor. And so having a built-in light here, especially if you're doing interviews or you're talking to the camera for vlogging or whatever, really handy. And if you need additional light, they actually have these attachments too, which clip straight on to the gimbal itself. And this is an added light, so it's another LED. It powers straight from the gimbal. It's not something you need to add batteries for. And as soon as you attach it in, you have direct control over it using this wheel. And you can dim the amount of light comes in, increase the amount of light that it's putting off, like very useful. Now there are additional accessories that you can clip on, like this little camera, which allows it to track you. It's built in with different gestures, and when you're using the ZHIYUN app, it'll start filming you and track you wherever you go. But I've tested this little thing out. It works pretty well, as you can see in this video, and I don't really notice a difference between this and the competitors, but it is interesting that they chose to make it a separate piece, as opposed to just a software update. But regardless, I never really use that too often anyways, but if you do struggle with having direct control of the gimbal and you don't really know how to make those micro adjustments as you're moving around to get to face the right thing, being able to select your subject, very handy, and this is going to help with that. Another thing that I find super helpful is the focus or zoom wheel. It's on the side of this thing, and when you use it with the ZHIYUN app, which and apologies because I'm probably butchering how this company is pronounced, you can actually control where the focus is falling. So when you take it off autofocus in the app, you can do a focus pull, which is a really great feature to have when you're doing iPhone videography or cinematography. Additionally, it also allows you to switch to zoom control, where you can zoom your iPhone's video, and as you're filming, you can zoom up or zoom out, And that's just another really great tool that this has. And then finally, the thing that I honestly probably like the most is the mode selection. So when we're talking modes, I can only speak to what is available on the RS3 Pro or RS3 Mini, which is what I use for my professional cameras. But with the ZHIYUN Smooth 5S AI, they actually included these modes on this smartphone gimbal as well. And they actually included 5 different modes on this, which allows you to kind of adjust your filming style. Whether it's changing what axes it controls so that you can only control going left or right, or whether it's left and right, up and down, to whether it's a lot more responsive like POV mode where it's actively moving along with you as you're moving and it's really quick and snappy, to a mode where you can do a 360 video. This thing has a lot of controls, and I think the reason I like it so much is the same reason that I like some of the apps that give you more control over your video settings on your smartphone. Because when you're filming on this 5S AI, it's a lot more similar to using a professional gimbal setup. Whereas when you're shooting on things like the OM5, OM6, whatever's out right now, it feels like you're playing at videographer. It doesn't feel like you're genuinely as involved in the process, and I like being involved in my video process. Now, a couple quick things to mention, which I find a little confusing, but it's honestly not an issue at all, is they did create 2 different apps for using with this device. One is a lot more kind of beginner friendly, and the other one is a lot more detailed and allows you to do things like, again, like focus pulling and some of those more advanced features that you'd probably use if you were more serious about your iPhone videography. Now, I will say that not all of the features that are on these apps are free to use. Some of them are pay to play, which I gotta be honest, I'm disappointed about that. I don't enjoy it when companies have this mindset of we're gonna continue to make money off you, even though you've already invested in our product. But from Adobe to everything else, it seems that this is the new way that we operate in. I will mention though that when you do buy this, I do believe you get a 1 or 2 year free trial of that app, but anything after that, you're gonna have to pay for the year subscription or whatever it is, which wasn't outrageous, but it also wasn't cheap. Well guys, that's the video. If you use those 5 filming techniques on your iPhone, your video game is gonna be instantly elevated, your clients are gonna be a lot more impressed, and your social media videos are just gonna be a lot more engaging. Again, I wanna thank ZHIYUN for sending me this. Since they've sent me this, I've used this on multiple client productions, and I absolutely love all the features on it. I enjoy it a lot more than the DJI competitors, and I'm not just saying that because they sent it to me. I genuinely like the amount of control that this smartphone gimbal gives me, and the features they put on it I think are super helpful, and I cannot recommend this enough. While some of the things that I mentioned, like their app and some of the premium features you have to pay for, are a little bit annoying, overall I still would take this any day of the week over, say, the OM series. And I've had several OM series over the last couple years. Some of them fail and I had to stop using. If you guys are interested in picking up one of these gimbals, I am gonna put a link in the description. It's really great for iPhone cinematography. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm calin.charles, and I will see you next time.